Welcome to the StockMiner.com studios here in the Black Hills of South Dakota. I am your stock miner, Brian Johnson. I'm making professional trading simple. And had a down day today, was not unexpected. Something I had mentioned to you guys yesterday, and that could certainly happen. The NASDAQ had been lagging behind the other two indices, which is somewhat of an indication. Another indication, and this was the biggest indication to me, was that Google destroyed earnings. IBM didn't do so well. And between the two of them, the markets kind of stayed neutral. IBM crashed. Google went through the roof. I suspected it would open $10 to $15 up. I think it opened more like $17 up or something to begin the day. It was just a killer day for Google. I also mentioned 550 should be strong resistance, and while it did get above it, you'll notice that it closed the day just below it. So 550 is still holding on Google for the time being anyway. Apple reports on Monday, and it fell apart into the end of the day, as did some of the markets. If you really watch, even after hours, the futures continued to move down a little bit. So, not unexpected. I mentioned it up. I mentioned that it would probably happen, that it could very likely happen, and that it was actually a very logical place to happen. So let's break into the markets and take kind of a weekend view of what we've got after today and after the incredible run-up we saw all week. And that was this big move here. We broke this resistance we talked about at the beginning of the week and continued to push on through it. Came up, made some new highs above 10,000, but by the end of the week, the Dow was not able to hold on to those gains. The Dow finished at 9,995.91, so it was not able to close the week above 10,000. The S&P made new highs up towards 1096, and I had mentioned that a lot of people will start to front run that before it actually gets to 1100. That's kind of what we saw here. It was not able to actually even touch the 1100 for the time being. Finished the week at 1087. So basically everything down about 0.75% on all of the indices. The NASDAQ also down today. Surprising with the good Google earnings, but still people aren't quite convinced with tech as of yet. So it still continues to be somewhat of a laggard in the markets. Dow on a 60-minute, very interesting to see this huge move to the downside here. And then look where it pushed back up, right below this lower trend line. Once it broke it, you can see where it traced it up the entire day. Could never get back up and above it. So now this is the next sense and point of resistance going forward on the Dow. This could also be setting itself up for another drop here, which could take us back to this 9,900 area, possibly below. That'd be a pretty big stretch. If we get down into this area, we could have some bigger problems. I'm going to diagnose this a little bit more over the weekend and really get into this on Sunday for y'all and see what we can kind of discern from this particular price action we saw at the end of the week. On a daily, right back up to this upper channel resistance. As I've said before, this is a very defensible place to get short, right up in these areas here. We did see a move down today. It pulled itself back up pretty nicely, though, from the lows where it was at. So does this move down Monday? I will tell you right now, I would not be surprised to see us gap down Monday. That wouldn't surprise me in the least bit, even with Apple earnings coming out. Doesn't surprise me if we gap down. If this stays sideways, though, of course, that's a high base, very bullish, and look for another push up by the bulls if that happens. NDX on a 60-minute had a very nice beginning to the week, and you can see it kind of fall apart since then. Came back into these areas here. Was not able to get back up and over the 20-period moving average on the 60-minute, and so it's anyone's guess where this is going to go. It is still below this dotted line. We've been watching this trend line for a long time now. Right here, and I'm going to show you some similarities. This is actually kind of interesting to see. You can see this dotted line we were watching. We closed basically above it, on it, whatever, right here. The next day, below it, and now below it again. So we have not been able to really get up and above and establish any firm hold above this area. So the bulls will have some work to do in the short term to really establish themselves as as the force to continue to be reckoned with, which they've done over and over again. The weekly, now that it's closed, you can see kind of turned into a doji. This could be a reversal doji, could be a continuation doji. Still hard to tell. So what we have from this is nothing. We really have no ultimate direction from the weekly based on the candle we got here on the NASDAQ. SPX on a 60-minute. Now, while the Dow kind of broke its trend line, and I could maybe fudge this ever so slightly, but this particular trend line here, as you see, is holding. The price is actually holding above this particular trend line, looking for a push to the downside potentially come Monday. Monday's open will be very interesting to watch. If it does pull back, just look for it to come back here to the 1080 and ultimately this 1075 area, which we've talked about. That would be a gap fill, very convenient place to pull back to, and then maybe a further push up from there. Here we were watching this channel as well. We were right on it or just above it. I said the bears have got all of about 1 day to get this back down. And obviously they watched my video, and that's what they did today. They did pull it back down into this channel. So as it stands right now, we are just continuing in this uptrend. We are at the top of this channel. Very defensible short here, and I mentioned this would be a very logical place to see a pullback, would be right at this point here. SPX on a weekly, this candle here is still actually pretty bullish from the weekly standpoint. Now we are within this rising wedge. Maybe this following week, because now we're going to start a little bit over. Come next week, the candle's going to start over here, and it'll be right on this line here. If it can hold by the end of the week, we may see it push up and touch the top of this. But as of right now, we have this weekly candle to look at, and this is still very bullish in the short term. VIX on a daily continues to fall apart. You can see that it closed down today 7%. This was the most logical place to find support. We almost touched that here today. But at this point, it could reverse. It's going to start a little candle over here. So next week, we'll continue to watch this. Maybe early in the week, we do actually get a touch of this, a touch and go type of a motion where it comes down and hits this. And then by the end of the week, the VIX has pushed back up and the markets continue to push back down. Apple on a 60-minute.